So guess what I did this morning?
I'm guessing you were in a Starbucks?
Ha! Not in. I went around it. But I did finally go. I finally went. So from the first episode with Paul Babb, right? For the quiz of Name That Paul, yeah, I said I would pay it forward. So this is what happened. So I get there. I didn't want a coffee. I already had my own coffee. So I just I got to go to Starbucks. So I just got one of their egg spinach wraps, for lunch type of a thing.
Uh-huh.
And I told them when I ordered, I said, hey, whoever is behind me, I'm going to pay for the order. And the woman from Starbucks, she said, I hope it's a small order.
Oh.
I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, well, whatever it is, it's fine. So we went around, I pull up, I see the woman behind me. She's got a phone out and she's reading a bunch of stuff. I'm looking at her. I'm like, you're ordering for a bunch of people.
For her office or something.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, no. So I was like, either it's a very custom order that somebody requested that wasn't her because she's reading it off a phone, or it's a lot of orders, a lot of things. So I pull up and, it's the barista, the Starbucks, she kind of, she's like, what's this for? It's blah, blah, blah. I told her it's podcast and stuff. And so she's like, it's kind of a big order. It ended up being $37 for their order. Not too bad, but definitely more than a coffee. So we covered it. And I thought, I was like, oh, do I make this a thing and stay and hey, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I just left. So I didn't do anything. I just left.
So they didn't get to meet their angel.
No.
Angel.
No.
Oh, well.
And they, what I'm imagining happened though is she was so amazed and just honored that she paid it forward for the people, and it's still going right now, hours later.
Well,
at that Starbucks, people are still paying forward.
That'd be fun. And that just becomes known. That's the Starbucks that becomes known for people go there and pay it forward. And that's
because of some podcasts. Yeah, they're like, yeah, some podcast thing.
Good for you. I hope you tell Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good story.
Yeah, I will.
So today we're talking to Maddie Banta. She's wonderful. We had such a great conversation with her. She's the website manager at MW Company, an automotive aftermarket company. And she is very conversant in craft and an advocate for craft. So it was really exciting to talk to her. She's got a unique background and pulled together a lot of different perspectives around the use of craft, and she was a real advocate for it inside her company to do a lot of web migrations for their brands. So it's a great conversation. I was really excited to talk to her.
I mean, it's spot on. For anybody who's listening, if you're a B2B company, if you work at a B2B company, e-commerce, and you're thinking about replatforming, if that is just kind of where you are, any of that stuff, you're like, what is this crap thing? This is the episode for you. Absolutely. Maddie kind of just really states very clearly why Craft Commerce was the perfect fit for their company. They have D2C and B2B stuff, so it's pretty insightful. She's had agency experience, graphic design, developer experience, the e-commerce experience, and managing it. And so she's kind of, as you were saying, she got a bunch of stuff. So you're in for a ride. This is good stuff.
Yeah. So if anyone listening is considering craft for their website, for their migration, this is going to be a really informative show for you. I mean, she'll speak to everything from how it improves workflow to brand perception to user experience. So it's really great. So without further ado, let's get into it with Maddie Banta. So welcome to the show, Maddie. Where are you calling in from?
Houston, Texas.
Oh, wonderful. So, how's the weather down there?
It's lovely. Winter in Texas is the best.
Yeah.
We were just chatting about Midwest and Seattle, and it's, sunny and, fairly warm, and just makes it worth, suffering through the summers down here. So
yeah, they can get a little hot.
Smidge.
So it's great to have you here. We're glad you're joining us today because we are fans of Craft Commerce, as you might have seen from our work. And we know you're doing several website migrations and managing that for MW company. So it sounds like you're doing several migrations at once, which is a lot of hard work probably. And we're going to get all into that. Can't wait. But first, before we begin, Stephen likes to, this is what we do with all of our guests. Stephen likes to play a little game. So I don't know what this game is, but he's prepared something for us. And I thought I'd get us started with that, Stephen.
We're jumping straight in, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to dive straight in.
This is a little icebreaker, right? So a little game. So yeah, well, you didn't realize you were coming to a quiz show, but you are on a quiz show. So welcome.
Perfect.
And this game is titled Texas or Virginia.
I like it.
My
two favorite places.
There we go. Yeah, see, there we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is tell you a name of a town or a township, right? And you have to say which state that town is in.
Oh, goodness. You're about to put my Texas knowledge to use. Let's see what
I've got 10 of them.
Okay.
What do you think is the winning? What should be the winning count? Is it just like 6, or is it like are we going like serious here? Like what's the winning count? Elle, you can decide. You can be the judge.
Me? Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, I guess 6 because that's more than 50%, which is like random.
I'll take a barely passing grade.
Yeah,
that's good. Let's squeak
very
through.
Good. All right. We'll be gentle here. So here's the fun part too. So if you get 6 right, then you're not just playing for your own bragging rights, but you're going to be playing for someone else. Here, I have a question. So I have an idea of who you're playing for, but I kind of need to verify that this is a good thing. So because I think I know what they possibly would win too. Let's just say so you're married, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is your husband a sports fan by chance?
Yes.
College sports by chance?
No.
No.
Mostly. Well, he went to a small liberal arts school, so some college. But
all right. Well, this may not be okay. Well, I mean, it's perfectly fine that he's not a college sports fan. But my winnings. Okay, so here's what it is. So then you can pick. You can pick any person.
Okay.
Who gets this prize then?
Okay.
But ultimately, so there is a website that is a craft commerce website called it's chromeemblems.com, and they sell little decals that can go on your car. And it's typically
I'm a UVA fan, so.
Oh, I think they have. So we can check and see if they have it.
See if they have UVA?
They might have UVA things.
You gotta
either a
represent Virginia
decal
and
or
Texas.
sticker or something. So you can win a UVA product from their store, and we'll send it to you or whoever you want to send it to. So you can be playing for yourself or anybody who wants it, really. So we'll send one of their products but you got to get 6. I mean, if you get 4, then it's all over.
It's off. Okay.
So what are the rules again, Stephen? Tell us again.
Oh,
how does she
win? The rules
win?
are simple.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question. The rules are very simple. You just have to guess which state, Texas or Virginia, and you got to get 6 right. And I'll go one at a time, and we'll do 10. We'll kind of go rapid fire.
Perfect.
Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. There's no timer, but we'll still go fast. Ding dong.
Texas.
Yes. Bacon.
Virginia.
Yes. Tight squeeze.
I'm gonna put that as Texas.
No,
Virginia. Wait. Oh, you said that. I missed that one.
Does that one? Judge L?
You're making me the judge?
Yeah, of course. Come on. You got to participate in this.
I'm keeping score. I'm counting the ones that she's gotten right so far.
I'm going to be honest. You said no after, as I said it. So I will say no to that one. I'll give myself the X on that one.
Okay. Cut and shoot.
Texas.
Yes. So this one is spelled Fries, fries, but pronounced freeze.
Virginia?
Yes. Look at this.
Yeah, so Virginia pronunciations are always weird.
Just 2 more. You just need 2 more.
2 more. All right. All caps, dish.
Virginia?
Nope.
Texas?
Texas. It was actually a town. They did it as a promotion with the Dish network, like the satellite TV company.
Of course, Texas.
Yeah. No, this will give it away. Okay. Croaker.
That's Virginia.
Yes.
Yeah.
One more.
Okay. Which one should I do? There's 3 left here. Okay. Oatmeal.
That's real. Oatmeal. I'm going to say Texas.
You are correct.
Right on. Well, let's finish the game and see if she gets more.
I was going to say.
All right, there's 2 more. Looneyville.
I could go either way. Virginia?
No. That was kind of a trick one. Yeah, Looneyville, Texas. And then the last one is Hurt.
Hurt. That sounds too normal for Texas at this point. So, Virginia?
It is Virginia.
Virginia?
Yeah. Yes.
Well done.
Very good.
Now I have to go on Google Maps. I'm like, look those places up.
Yeah. Tight Squeeze apparently is a tight-knit community. I don't know. It's probably funny words. There we go. Well, thank you for playing. Thanks for kicking us off here. So you will win from chromeemblems.com an emblem for UVA. If they have them, we'll see what they have, and we'll let you kind of go from there.
A fun present for someone. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're having you on just because we kind of want to just learn and hear about like your experience. You obviously, as we kind of mentioned, are managing some websites that are in Craft Commerce, but also just generally you're doing e-commerce and you're kind of one managing websites, and so we're just really kind of interested in your experiences, like what's going well, what can people like see from your experience, and like some of those things. So I mean, I guess really the first part is, can you like walk us through the experience of, and we can go back if we need to go back, but I guess where I'm going to start is just like when you get to the point of like deciding that you're going to build like replatform, I guess were you a part of those conversations? How did those conversations go for like deciding to replatform and ultimately deciding on the platform that you did?
So before I came on, so to back up one step, I work for a company, MW Company, and we own multiple brands of aftermarket automotive parts, primarily wheels, but some racing products as well. And so over time, we've either acquired companies or changed developers or different things. And so they were all on different platforms. And we had certain bottlenecks within our operations and our procedures. And so like our brands don't fit. Like we don't just sell like a t-shirt where it's small, medium, and large, and it's pretty straightforward. Our products are a lot more complicated. And then they also really relate to non-e-commerce content. Like people want to see cool pictures of cars with wheels and, to see the wheels on an actual car, and they're like, oh, I want to buy that. And so being able to relate content was always something in our discussions about the user experience. And we'd go down this road of like, well, we wish we could do this. And obviously there's ways to do it if you have, your e-commerce on one platform and your, the front end pages on the other. But it's really frustrating and it takes a lot of time. And so when we started to go down this path, I was very familiar with Craft, and I was trying to kind of like check my biases against it, with it, because I love it. And then it kept going, oh, but Craft could do that. I'm like, oh, Craft could do that. Like we could keep going back to Craft. And so it was, both, I would say, an easy decision, but then also a hard decision to make, because you go to something like a WooCommerce or Shopify, PrestaShop, and there's a lot of stuff that's built into it. Like there's a cart, there's checkouts, there's different things. And like, you're just tweaking what's there, where Craft, it's a wide open canvas. And that's, I think, both like a blessing and a curse. And that's probably the best thing about Craft. And then also probably one of the hardest things about Craft. And so the decision to have a single backend for our sites is probably one of the biggest things. And then flexibility, and that we didn't want to have to manage, if we have multiple brands and you have 2 sites for every brand, it's a lot of work. If you need to make a header change, you have to make it on 2 different places. And if you have to do this, it's just a lot of kind of duplicate work. And so trying to really streamline our operations and then be able to really customize it was huge. And so those were kind of the driving factors, to make the move over. But it's not a decision you make lightly. And it's hard because you go down an ecosystem and you're kind of down that way. And it's, a lot of it depends on your developer, what they know. If you have a developer who's really good in one shop, it's really valuable. Whatever that is to be with that developer, but with the platform they know. But then it's also, I have internal clients, and those are my coworkers. And we're the ones managing these sites. And so sometimes something that makes sense for development isn't the best for management. And so trying to, again, have a platform where we could manage, sites ourselves, or empower my coworkers to say, make blog posts, put galleries in, edit content. No worries, you're going to be okay. You're not going to totally screw up the site, and to make that a wonderful experience for them. But then also from the development standpoint, that we can customize it, we can integrate it, with the flexibility. Those were the things. But I said probably the biggest was there's just no built-in templates. There's no built-in functionality. So that's, again, good and bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely, I mean, I think you really actually summed it up really nicely. And it's that challenge when you just talk about like a good developer. I know with Craft Commerce specifically is just the idea is like, I mean, you're building the cart and checkout templates and all that stuff. And so the risks are higher if you don't have somebody who even knows like good workflows for checkout, because then your conversion rates could be lower because you're rebuilding a whole checkout flow and kind of bringing all of that fresh to the table. And even how like you structure products and stuff, like Craft just comes not opinionated whatsoever. There's a common thing that Craft is more of a framework than it is like a opinionated CMS. It's kind of gives
you the best thing too, because with a lot of these other platforms, I find you're overriding more than you're using sometimes. So there's simply from logging in to edit a product, and you have to say, ignore 90% of what's on this page. Here's the one field you need to edit. And that's the only thing you need to worry about, is really hard for non-developers, or for anyone really, because you're constantly just like having to sort through information. Versus Craft, where it's a blank slate, but then it's only what you need, and it's so streamlined and it's so precise in that sense. And that's the best part of it too. Then you log in and it's just exactly what you need, where you want it, and it's on that end it's much better.
I was just wanting to ask Maddie about your career trajectory and how you have come to be in your position now as the website manager for MW Company. So I want to back up a little bit. Clearly, you have some strong opinions about what works well for you and your team. And I'm curious how your career trajectory and your experiences before this work you're doing now has informed your perspective at all, or if it has. You started out with a degree in art history and then went into graphic design, and then got into digital design, and then you taught yourself how to code, which is really amazing. So can you talk a little bit about just that part of your journey and then what has led you up to now?
Yeah. So when we moved to Houston, now it's like over 10 years ago, I worked as a website designer for an agency here. And it's frustrating. Like, you'd have a design that was beautiful, or I thought it was beautiful, and you'd hand it to a developer sometimes, and it came back looking totally different. And it kind of got annoyed. It was like, I wanted to like, no, that's supposed to be like this, or come on, do this. And so I started kind of fixing stuff. And so that's where I started to really kind of dive in. But then also, when we first moved here, my husband was in law school and I was supporting both of us. And so I started taking on freelance work and nights and weekends to help just make ends meet. And so I started putting together these like little templated, WordPress sites. And they were pretty awful, to be honest. Like they're like, they were not good at all. But you'd have a client then. And then the site would break and they come to you and they'd say, well, fix it. And you're going, that's interesting. Like, I have no clue what to do. So you figure it out. Like, you just, I don't know, you troubleshoot, and you get on blogs and different things. And so I realized from a business perspective, it was a lot of wasted time I couldn't bill for. I didn't feel right billing for someone's site continually break. And so I was looking for other platforms. And when I found Craft, it was like just everything opened up, because I started to realize that I could spend more time building sites and less time maintaining sites. And they were more stable and a lot better. So for a couple of years after that, I went off and just had my own little company, and I made, kind of little brochure sites, and it was so much fun. But they were all in Craft. And so to this day, like, most of those sites are still running, and I have not touched them in years. Like, they are just, Craft is so secure and so stable and just so lightweight. So I would say from the business side, it makes a lot more sense to not just be fixing sites all the time. And then from the client standpoint, they don't know the difference. Like, they don't know why their site's breaking or what's wrong or anything like that. They just know there's a problem and that you have to fix it. So if you're on a platform where it doesn't create as many problems with, like, your WordPress site automatically updated and now your theme doesn't match, and your plugin, this one plugin threw off your whole site, you don't need half that stuff with Craft. And so anyway, so that's how I kind of started to get into Craft and do that. But being brutally honest, like, I am not I'm a decent developer. I can hold my own ish, but I couldn't take it to that next level. And also, at the time I had my first child, and I needed just stability and just predictability, because life was not, but when you own your own little company, it's like you're just working all the time, or it's, it was just too up and down. So, I went back to work for some agencies, but on the project management side.
Sure.
And it was just really nice to be able to understand the design and development and how it all relates and integrates, and just to have that understanding of the different components, but then be able to pull it together. And so I really I feel like benefited from, I'm not by any means an expert in any of it, but I know enough that I can talk to the developers, the designers, or say, okay, look at a design, say, this is going to be a nightmare in development. Like, don't do that, or we need to change this, and to do that. So then about 2 years ago, I was looking for other jobs and wanted to go in-house. And that's where I found MW Company, and have just loved it here ever since. And it's been really fun, being on the e-commerce side and doing this massive kind of migration project with them.
So how many websites are you migrating?
About to put me on the spot. We have, so we have multiple brands. We have Momo, Weld, CCW, ADV1, Forge Star, Tycore, Hyper, our dealer portal, which is the B2B side of things. And that's also the MW Company. And then we actually have like Reds and some smaller brands as well. So it's going to be close to 10 sites.
Yeah.
And they are, the dealer portal, we're starting to work on that. That's going to be a B2B, probably a multi-site actually. But the other ones are standalone, installs. So to do that.
And was it difficult to convince your team that Craft was the way to go, or what was that process like? I imagine there were many stakeholders with 10 different brands and sub-brands.
The company is, we are a big company in ways, but also a very small company. And so I worked very closely with our primary developer, and he's the one who understands our systems and integrations. And one thing we all agreed is that we did not fit into, that shoe, or the easy shoe of, Shopify or WooCommerce. And that is mostly due to our integrations and how our products are set up. And so when we started looking at Craft, frankly, I think they took a huge leap of faith with me to do this migration. It was a lot of faith and a lot of trust. So the conversations, I would say, weren't too difficult, to go over. But the farther into this we get, the possibilities and what we're seeing is just more than we could have ever hoped for. And so it's really changed the conversation, I would say, for, my team and for my work and, just the whole thing. So
Are you able to share
wonderful.
some of that? Like, cause I think that's one of the things that's really exciting is like choosing and getting in a platform where then it feels like it opens up a whole new horizon, for what's possible. And you can now dream a little bit bigger. It seems real. And like we have conversations with clients and we're doing phase 1 new build. And sometimes I ask like, what's your hope for like 3 months after the site goes live? And sometimes the answers, and one of some of the answers I love when they say it is, I hope that our higher ups are kind of thinking about a phase 2 now. Like they're like, oh, what can we do next? Like what's on the horizon? So like it's cool that y'all are seeming to have that experience. Or just from an e-commerce perspective, like are you able to talk about some of the specifics about like what are the horizons that are opening that you're seeing that maybe weren't imagined before?
So there's a couple of questions in there that you had in terms of like, what are the possibilities? Like in the smallest form, for an example, it's like Black Friday sales. Any team who's running Black Friday knows it's a huge lift to get a Black Friday sale up. And it's very complicated. Certain platforms, you can't like press a shop for the pages. You can't save a draft or preview or change or, kind of preview in advance. The amount of time we saved with Craft this year was exponential for the sites that were on Craft to get one of these sales up and running, to change out the assets, to share, because you can share a link with your team, they can preview the banners and make sure everything looks okay before it goes live. You don't have to mock it up. It's like real time. Hey, do these homepage banners look great? Okay, good. Like save draft, let's go. It's a really small thing, but when your team is pulled to the brink, trying to manage these sales, any time you can save is huge. Also we have different sales and our team, sometimes they're really innovative and they said, well, we want to do a giveaway or we want to buy, 3 wheels and you get the 4th free, or if we want to save, purchases of this order value, you get X, or here's a giveaway. If you order these 2 things, we'll give you a free hat. Different things. So we built a plugin that basically has overridden the Craft coupons. So we can, like in a modular way, add on coupon opportunities. And so whenever my team says, hey, by the way, we're doing X deal, before it was like, oh boy, here we go. This requires a huge amount of code and, revamping and retooling of the site. And now, okay, no worries. We'll just add that one feature on and that goes throughout. So I would say that's like a very, in terms of a very notable, moment for me of like realizing how much time we can save and how much easier. And then that experience is, because before I'd wake up at like 2:00 in the morning and be switching out banners and just kind of hoping, on some of these sites because that's the only way we could do it was live, like just hoping it was okay. And then, my poor team in California that was like, hey, you need to change this banner image because this isn't working. They would have to be up and it was a nightmare. We'd do this. And then, it was just really stressful. Where now it's like, we know it's proofed. It's like the whole process is so calm. Like we can proof in advance. We make sure everything's okay. They can provide feedback. We live edit it. Okay, we need to change a feature. No big deal. Save it as a draft and then publish. So that's been amazing from that standpoint. But then bigger efficiencies, our integrations, managing inventory. So we're primarily manufacturers of wheels. So most of our systems are set up for manufacturing. But then we also need them to talk to the website. And so the system we use doesn't necessarily integrate easily. So dealing with inventory syncs or simple things like that, it has to come from a system. It's not managed in the back. We have it in the back end, but it's not where it's controlled. And so getting all of our systems kind of to talk nicely, it's been challenging, but it's also really exciting to see it all come together. And again, just really streamline information, reduce errors of data errors or anything like that. And, so we've had some hiccups, but that side, it's been really great.
So when you, as a manufacturer, Are you having to make sure your catalog is sitting on your website as well? Is that part of that integration?
It will be. So that's going to be on the B2B side. Is the dealer portal is where dealers can log in, see the catalog, see catalog pricing, switch between pricing, and to do all that is what we are like basically this week starting in on. So there's some very.
Are you doing that because the
things.
Craft Commerce 5 came out and like you're attaching? So y'all are excited the beta that just came out. Like,
we are like we've been waiting. So we've been really excited for this. So it's definitely the pricing thing and catalog pricing is huge. Being able to do that and different pricing tiers. So we still, they haven't, as of this recording, they have not released the beta of Commerce 5. But we've been kind of inquiring and like, can you guys do this?
Beta 1 just came out last night. Came out yesterday.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I was up last night looking at it. So geeking out on a little bit because we have we have some plugins, right, for commerce that we build out, and we have one that we're super excited that it's not released. It's called Variant Manager, so it's to like make managing variants and stuff a lot easier,
better,
and to kind of give it a just a better system. So once Commerce 5, we already are on it. Like one day later, we're kind of tackling to get it going. But yeah, when you say B2B. The B2B side in your portal, it makes tons of sense just because of what Commerce 5 is releasing. So it's fun to hear that you're excited about it and that there's things about it that you'll be able to do now that's kind of coming out. So it's for me, I'm like, we have more people like pushing the platform in the right direction and kind of asking for the right things and getting excited about it.
Yeah, no, we are very, very excited about it. So a lot of fun stuff that's coming down. I'm a little nervous, because it's so different with the intricacies that all these sites we just moved. I'm like, oh man, like some of that stuff's going to be a pain, but it's also the opportunities and how much more streamlined it is. I think that's going to make it completely worth it. So,
yeah. Can I ask you this? Because what I'm hearing is also, so you have, whether it's one developer or two developers, I'm not sure, but they seem to have some skills in PHP and be able to do back-end coding to kind of do these things. You're talking about like a custom module that's basically, if people who know Shopify, it's kind of like a custom app that can extend the platform to do different things, or the integrations and the behind the scenes kind of code that integrates and does all that stuff. So do you have a developer, like a full-time developer on the team who is propelling you to those things? I guess what I'm asking is too, because like that's what we get to do, right, when we do that stuff. But I'm thinking about people who are considering, like, if there's another person who's at another company who's in the position where you were before you moved to Craft Commerce, for them to consider, all right, you're coming to this custom platform. It's got a lot of possibilities, but what is the true cost? I guess in the sense of like, what have your role is there? What other roles have you had and have you needed to sustain to be able to kind of continue to do the customizations that you need? I guess what's the reality for people if they're thinking about going down this path? Can they just build the site once, leave it alone, and then do those things? Or is your experience like, what kind of team structure do you recommend?
Our integrations are very complicated. So we have a huge amount on Plex, which is our manufacturing side, and that manages pricing, inventory, new products, and then orders. We have a Salesforce side, and a very custom Salesforce integration. And so we have someone who, the main developer, internally manages and has set up all these different systems and all the integrations. We are building, he built a middleware to get information out and in easier. And then we have, what we have is PIMcore is inventory management and product management, or catalog management more. So we have, internally, we have a pretty complicated setup, I would say. Then you have the development side where, besides just a front-end developer and a designer, having someone like that either on retainer or, even part-time or full-time, depending on what your needs are. But of saying, hey, we need a new module, or we need, we want tabs now, or we need this to look a certain way, or we're doing a giveaway, can you make a pop-up look good, or whatever that is, of having someone there on the design side. But then also someone on the craft plugin side and the craft development, who can really work with, for us, they work hand in hand with our internal developer. and making sure that everything is spec'd out correctly and working. So like part of it is just getting the craft and the website up and running. And then for us, there's a huge part in just making sure it talks appropriately to the necessary systems to make the business run. And to keep orders going through and flowing in, the proper way without totally revamping like the warehouse's workflow or anyone else's workflow. So for our situation, it was, that's kind of been the challenge in keeping, the internal systems set, and making sure those are okay, but then building the website in a way that works with everything. So I think you need a pretty darn good development team. Like you need someone who can make plugins and custom modules and, and depending on the complexity of your internal systems, someone who can help manage the internal systems too. So it's a huge lift. It's a huge group effort.
What have you in pulling that all together? Did you have to hire differently because you were moving to Craft, or are you saying that everyone on the team pulled together and everyone on the team on your existing team was able to make this happen, or was it that you all went through additions, and had to do some different thinking about hiring?
So we've had to hire Craft developers. So some of it, the process has been I've taken a pretty heavy hand in how the sites are set up, in terms of fields and structures and, entries and how all that works and how it needs to operate. And as I said, I know Craft, so it's been nice because I can go in and quickly make an editor tweak or do that. But to really pull this off, you need a Craft developer and a really good team behind you for that. So yeah, you definitely need.
Was there any moment, just kind of going back to, I know you were a strong advocate for Craft and definitely saw the possibilities and opportunities right away. But was there anyone else on your team who was looking at like a Shopify Plus or a different platform seriously and doing that kind of comparison?
Well, our best sites right now were on PrestaShop. And that was the experience of, the programmer that we have. And he's phenomenal. And he's did a fantastic job with those. But again, it's a 2-system backend. So we had him kind of dive into Craft. And he's been learning it. But I think also we all have anything but WooCommerce. Just anything but WordPress is, I think most developers, it's you have to be crazy to put a site on WordPress in my mind. And then Shopify, I had worked, with sites in Shopify or BigCommerce, and they're great. But knowing, one of the things too, is our products don't fit into the mold, which means you're constantly tweaking. But then the time it takes to pivot, we looked at them, but it just, every time we'd find one that either worked as an e-commerce, then you're into a 2-system backend.
Yeah.
And then we get back there or it's the pricing modules too, how they price their product. If they take a percentage of your sales, or you have to pay a huge amount up front, where Craft, it's not a small fee to pay, the $1,000 for the e-commerce and it's like $299 for the license, or, to do all that, but then you own it and you own it once. And there's a huge amount of savings in that as well. And so, there's a lot of things I think went into play that it just kept coming back to Craft. It's like, oh, this one's really good, but you're going to be paying, 2% of your sales to them, or, whatever it is, or the development fees are huge. And that's the other thing is Craft, certain development things are very complicated, but there's other things that are very simple and that you don't need a plugin for. You don't need anything other than a good framework, and some knowledge of Twig, and you're good to go. So I would say there probably weren't as many discussions as I probably, we might have had. And that was to, some of it's just to the company, but then also just kept coming back. It was just a very clear choice, on every single front. And I would say the only downside of that decision was knowing that we were going into something without a built-in template. So that was the only this one's a little hard, but it's frankly worked out much better because there isn't anything built in.
So I'm curious, kind of switching it away from Craft and the platform there. So as just even in your role as kind of managing these sites and stuff, and it sounds like you're part of the marketing efforts too. Is that true?
Yes, we are part. So I'm technically on the D2C team, but we work just in lockstep with the marketing team. So right
So
there.
are there things like that? I don't know, that you've seen successful that's working for y'all that your marketing team is doing. I'm just imagining, like, so Elle's a marketer. We have other people who would listen who are marketers and on the e-commerce side. So, like, are there things that you've learned from being now, at the company and doing e-commerce and seeing, like you talked about Black Friday sales, for example, and the efforts that go into that? Are there kind of key lessons or things that you've learned that you feel like y'all are doing well, kind of on the marketing side that other people could, you know, I don't know, learn from or kind of consider of, like, here's how we do marketing, and or at least what we do well?
Yes, the keeping it on the website side, I think, because we have the marketing teams and they're running ads, through Google, through Meta, on that. One of the things that we are trying to focus on are the non-branded keywords and how to expand, our audience away from people who are very familiar with our brands. And so trying to go after things of, like, I have, like 2020, or 2017 Ford Mustang wheels. That's a query I want to rank for our sites. That's not someone who knows Ford Star or Weld or, any of our brands. It's just someone who's looking for a product. And so we, on Ford Star right now, we built out a lot of, like, actually it's like 1,200 pages for these types of fitment guides to really try to be an answer for that of, like, hey, you have this wheel, this car, here's the sizes you need, here are products, ready, go, buy. Going forward, earlier this week we had a meeting. I'm very excited about it because, like, Weld right now, one of our main brands, we have a visualizer where someone can go in and, you put in your car and then you can see kind of a silhouette of the car and change the color, change your suspension, and then see what our wheels look like on your car. And then from there, transact. But what we're going to do is we're going to build this. We're going to take that data, pull it in, and I don't want, a million pages on the back end of the site. That's a nightmare to maintain and to manage. And so it's going to automatically generate pages for this. But we have key fitments that we want to override. So we're going to have basically an override section where it's going to dynamically generate the URL. And then when it matches, then it pulls in our template, and we can put in, much more detailed fitment information or kind of really control the information. So from a marketing standpoint, then we can drive ads, obviously, to these pages. We can target those types of users and be very specific. And so it's, to me, this really exciting meld between, content that's pulled in from a database and then dynamically generated and matched, so if it's a Ford Mustang, okay, pull in the Ford Mustang galleries, things like that. And then here are the fitments and the wheels with the amount of control we can have in Craft to really make that a beautiful experience and to really kind of dive headfirst into the key pages. And so that's the type of thing, I think, from a website, and where marketing comes in is then, they can say, okay, the 2024 Ford Mustang was just released. Let's drive a lot of ads to this page, and we can really control that information versus it, just being dynamically, dynamically pulled in, which is great, but also, sometimes we don't need it for everything. So I think the websites, that's the type of thing, it can really work with. Or, from a marketing standpoint too, I would say a lot of my job is just to be able to react and to empower my coworkers, and they come up with some great ideas. And sometimes it's like you have someone who has a really good idea and a platform that's really hard to manipulate, and you go, oh, like, okay, I can help you. Like, sure, that will take me a week, But in Craft, we can be agile, and we can respond quicker so they can do their job faster. And so I would say, like, from a website standpoint, if I can kind of keep up with my coworkers and their awesome ideas and not say, no, we can't do that because that's going to cost us $10,000 in development fees, or, now we have to rebuild the whole platform, that's better. Or when they come up with they have a new wheel that they need we can build custom wheels on the website that generates custom SKUs and they can transact through there. So I think part of it too is just enabling our teams to have the awesome ideas and to come up with the cool products and then to be able to react really quickly and to put it into place, to keep everything going, moving quicker. So I know that answers your question, but that's how I kind of see my role in relation to my coworkers. I want them to do really well, and I need to be able to react really quickly and to pivot on a dime sometimes. So
it's a great illustration of something we often talk about is the creative control that Craft does give marketers. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
The ability to pivot quickly, to be agile, like you're talking about, and to come up with that great idea and then move on it. So sounds wonderful. Sounds like you've really got a team that's working well together to make that all happen.
We're getting there. To be honest, we've been building so much. So like the sites that are on Craft, it's a lot better, but still, I'd say probably a huge percentage of my job is just trying to get the sites over.
Sure.
Right now. So I can see the possibilities. I'm starting to see that switch flip, and then even how, internally they look at it like, hey, can you try this banner image? Can you try this? How does this look? And they know it doesn't take me, a ton of time. I can just drop it in, send them a preview link. And I think it really changes the conversation internally. That's
pretty awesome. Would you have advice for somebody? So let's imagine there's a company that's B2B. They're in an old platform and they're at this juncture where they've got to make a decision because their old platform is crashing, is not working for them in all the ways, right? So they're kind of at this juncture of kind of considering, if you were to sit down and talk to them, are there certain pieces for you that you would encourage them to evaluate, of like how to know whether Craft is not, because you even early on, you talked about the idea of like probably trying to check your biases, right? To see if like, oh, maybe I'm just love Craft so much that like, right. Are there certain things, like if you're in the room and they're asking you like, hey, Maddie, we've got the site, it's horrible. What platform, like what should we be considering for our platform? Or like, how do we know if we fit on Craft? Because we're not sure that we fit on the other ones. Like, would you have any insights or like questions or things that you would encourage people to think about?
I think if anything, it comes down, I don't want to say budget, but it's the cost, the investment cost. So if you have a pretty established product and you have systems that are tried and true, I love Craft because you own it. That really becomes your system and you can manipulate it. If you are a brand new business, sometimes there's benefits not just going, but of using something that's already established. You quickly throw something up, get some revenue in, save up, and then start investing in your team. So if it's a really lean company, it might not be the best platform for them. If they're just getting going, where it's just like, you just need to see what sales look like or see what this looks like, or you don't have a ton of integrations and you can, a big commerce or Shopify works really well. That's great. I think there's a lot of value to that. When you get into more complicated things, which I think a lot of B2B, we were talking about from Houston, it's a lot of manufacturing down here. It's a lot of B2B manufacturing, and they are not as straightforward as you might think, or some of these parts are how they sell, and who they sell to, and with, different pricing tiers or levels. And if you have B2B, you might have a quote cart. And so having a quote cart too, Craft Commerce can do quote carts. You don't have to, have a transaction of money for it to still be a cart, and to be able to deliver a really good seamless experience and then turn that into an e-commerce cart. And so I think when someone's looking at this, they need to look at their whole systems, every system they have, their CRM, their manufacturing, how everything goes through. Because I don't know if you guys have found this, I think very few companies can fit into certain platforms easily. They're constantly making concessions, either internally in how their processes work, or they can't, yes, it works-ish, and it gets the job done, but they can't take it to that next level. and they can't, step it up a notch and kind of really go after the competition because they've kind of stuck in the same thing. Well, here's a product page and this is what you get, or you can manipulate it a little bit, but that will cost you $20,000 in development, so you run into stuff like that. I would say it depends on the business, and you really need to look at the whole systems. But it's not necessarily a starter platform, I would say, for everyone. It's one where you really kind of invest in it and you want to grow and you want to develop it and make it work for your company.
So you mentioned that moving to Craft, opens up all these possibilities and you can really go after the competition. So can you talk a little bit about how you see that, like how you see the ability to be more competitive, what it does for a brand, like the brand's presence? Because, I'm guessing that a lot of that comes down to the experience people have, right?
Yeah.
But could you talk a little more from your perspective, what you're seeing there, or what you think is important there?
Across all of our sites, and I think with anyone, our biggest goal is to make it very easy and for users to buy wheels for their cars with confidence. And I'm saying wheels, we have other products too, but the wheels are the big one. Most of the time, people would go through dealers, and then they would take care of it for them. So anything that we can do to make that an easier process and to reduce uncertainty in that buying process, we want to do. Whether they want to see it on their car with the visualizer, confirm fitments. Sometimes it's just talking to someone and saying, you're unsure, come, just call us. We got you. Like, we have a great sales team. They'll come and make sure you get the right wheel for your car. That information varies for each product, really, or for type of product. And what that buying process is like varies. But I think at every step, if you can really consider how do you reduce uncertainty and make it so that when someone buys that product, they feel really good about it. Is it your warranty, return policy? What information do they need? Where do they need to see it? And at what point on the page? Because I don't think it's, for a lot of things will be consistent, but there's going to be exceptions. If we have a wheel, we offer custom wheels, for instance. That's a really different process of what does a custom wheel look like? What's that process? You customize it. Okay, let's walk them through that process. How do we, meet them where they are and address those questions head on? And so I think when you try to think about the user in that stance and your competitors, if you have a platform where you can control that information, you can tweak very quickly and be agile, you can make a much better experience versus the ones where you can kind of see what they've jammed it into. They have a template, it works, and then they need to have something else, and it's just kind of chucked at the bottom, or you're like, oh, that's good, but to a degree. That's where you can really thrive. And so, I would say anything you can do to reduce uncertainty for a user, you're going to be able to really go after your competition. It's, and same thing for Google. I mean, they keep coming with all these algorithm updates. Well, the person Googling is a human. So make it work for a human, and then Google will value that. It doesn't need trickery or witchcraft. You're just dealing with people. And so again, just keeping that human element, I think, and really trying to make the site work for a human with questions,
Yeah. So it's that beautiful blend of content and commerce.
Yes,
that
exactly.
It's all there, and it's there when they need it, and they're finding it in their customer journey when and where they need to find it. And that's
exactly.
So much easier with the flexible system.
Oh, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Maddie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your insights, your journey of kind of, especially you're working with Craft and Craft Commerce and all the things that you're doing there at NW Company. And so it's been really cool to hear just as you've built these sites, the things that you've been able to do and the things that you're looking forward to doing. So I definitely want to keep in touch and kind of see how, especially Craft Commerce 5, how that does your B2B portal. I'm very interested to see how y'all end up kind of pulling that one together. So
follow up with me, I think in June or July, we should have it up.
Deal.
So, yeah, I'm very excited about that one. A multi-site B2B dealer portal. Like, exciting. So
That's super exciting.
I know. So it's good. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Maddie.